Okay. All right. Truthfulness. Yeah, we're on truthfulness this week, right? Yeah. Susan and I will always we'll say these expressions, these expressions that have been around for a long time, at least a couple generations, like our parent expressions that were around that our parents said when we were kids, and we'll find ourselves having internalized them and repeating them without necessarily reflecting on them. What is that? What is the relevance? What is the source of that? And is it relevant? We'll ask ourselves, is it true? Does it make sense? I've been repeating that, I'll repeat it. Does it make sense? Here's one. Honesty is the best policy. Seriously? Not in my experience. Not always. Honesty is always the best policy? No, not always. Not always. We're talking about truthfulness now. On truthfulness, I can go there right away. Well, truthfulness means whatever's the true, I just simply say it, no matter what, you know? But have you ever heard of brutal honesty? Brutal honesty? It's true. It may be true, but hurtful. How about this? True, and I know it's going to be hurtful. And part of my underlying unexamined or maybe only partially examined intention is to hurt in the telling of the truth. How about that kind of honesty? Is that the best policy? You know, like so many aspects of this tradition, each of them can seem like it's a standalone, but actually is embedded in a context, in a matrix of other of a contextual matrix, you know? So truthfulness too needs to be embedded in a context, in its context. What is the intention? Is it useful? Is it something that will lead to harmony? Is it something that will incline toward uniting or not? Or will it incline towards something that will be more alienating, that will be more, just where there will be just more pain and disconnect involved in sharing that truth, right? In other words, truthfulness also is dependent on another term that isn't used specifically in the tradition, but we know it well, discernment. You could say wisdom connected with truthfulness, or compassion connected with truthfulness. It's got to be all connected in there. What is the intention? Really, what is the intention? And sometimes it's obvious. And sometimes we're not talking about all examples of truthfulness, but there are some that require discernment, aren't there? Right? Right? Now, have you ever had to share something with someone? This comes up in psychotherapy. We're also psychotherapists. There's some things that need to be suggested, that we need to wonder about someone's behavior, someone's intention, wonder about someone's intention, how to do this gracefully without it seeming like, a hurtful comment or criticism, how to embed it. I love that expression, a spoonful of sugar, just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down, the medicine go down. There's some wisdom in that too, right? Sometimes, we want to say something, but we want to, often we'll say, if you want to give somebody a bit of a critique, it's good to start out with a constructive comment first. It would just basically put a spoonful of sugar first, right? And then the truth, and then something that may be more true. And maybe we don't come at it as this is the truth. Maybe it's like, I just want to wonder about this with you. I'm not sure, but it seems to me that you keep stepping in this same place every time and then blaming the world for your unhappiness. It seems to me that it seems that you may be, it seems like I just wonder, you know. So truthfulness is very complicated in that way, you know, and then there are just some truths that we don't want, that are just hard to share, that it seems they might be useful to share, but we don't share them with people, you know, and that's a complicated one, right? We know someone, we love someone, we see how they continue to hurt themselves. It seems pretty clear to us. We would like, as a friend, to wonder about something or suggest something, but we don't. No? Haven't we all done that? Haven't we all done that? I mean, there's something very simple and concrete. I still don't know what to do with this. I still don't know how to handle this one, you know? There are a couple of people I know who have like very strong body odor. Okay. Now, here's the thing about body odor. We can go a lot of different places with this. There are cultures where natural body odor is part of the norm. It's not in this culture. We're all deodorized. We're a deodorized culture, and that becomes the norm, right? But somebody with strong body odor, especially if they're in a public space, especially if they're in a public space a lot, may not be aware that that there's something going on here that may be alienating a lot of people. They may be wondering why people don't want to get closer to them. How come nobody wants to hug me? And may be unaware of this, and yet it's difficult to share, isn't it? I don't know if it is for you. That's a hard one to share, but it also feels like a hard one to not share. What's the truth? And what's important? What's our intention? Where I mean, this may seem like an overly too much information kind of thing, but I think it's one of those places where truthfulness is not so simple. It requires discernment. Sometimes it requires a little courage. Sometimes a little dose of courage. Sometimes it requires a little dose of compassion. Sometimes it requires a kind of just a more subtlety in our communication. Sometimes it means not sharing at all something that we feel to be true, you know, right? You may know a couple of really, really important truths, some things that you've always wanted to share. You've never quite had the courage to share with somebody, and they've got like maybe a month or two to live. Contextually, that may not be the time, right? That time may have passed. The time where you might have wanted to share that or offered feedback may have passed. Another very obvious example of, well, wouldn't it be truthful to just, if we take in other words, an overly simplistic view of what truthfulness is and decontextualize it, we can get into some trouble with there, you know? I know, oh my goodness, it's funny. I just flashed on this, literally, just this moment. I just flashed on this. My mother was one of these people who was, well, I would consider overly truthful. She'd say, look, I'm just being fresh. I'm just being honest. It's just, hey, it's just who I am. And it'd be like, ouch. Well, it's the truth. Yeah. Yeah, she would do that in a very, completely, it was completely congruent with who she was, of course, I got into a conversation with her once or twice about, Mom, truthfulness isn't everything. Can you soften it up a little bit? you know? So anyway, yes, truthfulness in combination, like so many other things. It's like, what's the intention? Let me take a moment, especially if it's one of those slightly different, yeah, hmm, when to share, how to share, contextually, what's appropriate in terms of truthfulness, and is it connected? Is it going to be something that's likely to connect? We can't guarantee, but as Susan will often say, when we're sharing, and especially when we're sharing something it may be a bit challenging, rest your heart on your own intention, which I love. I love that. I love that. But we need to know what our intention is. And sometimes our tensions are, there's more than one thread in there in our intentions. And so it takes what? Discernment, just discernment with regard to truthfulness. So, yeah. So thank you. Thank you for your attention. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Truthfulness. So let's open up a little bit before we meditate together. Yeah. Oh. And whatever needs kind attention and a little bit of opening, release. And when you're ready, lightly closing the eyes. And however you form the intention to settle, and bringing that forward and bringing the attention to some degree away from the thinking mind and into the body, into the breath, the touchstone of the breath, the wave-like rhythm of the breath of life. Permission to settle, to continue to settle a bit more, and to bring caring attention right here, overseeing this process, encouraging this process, breath by breath, exhale by exhale, letting go a bit more. and a willingness to return with care to the vicinity of the present moment, to the next breath. With kindness. and softening, softening. And maybe in the last few minutes, settling back a bit more. Taking hands off the wheel a bit more. Thank you, everybody.